So, I have two wonderful speakers here. They're up here together because they're going to tell you. So, and stay in suspense, and we'll see why the two of them are talking together and why it's appropriate, the conversation that they're going to have about and relative to the San Diego Angel Conference and the Angel Academy. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. How's everyone doing? Food was good. No one's asleep. That's always a positive, even with the lack of coffee. I miss messing Kathy. I know there's coffee. The tea was great. While Neal's getting his mic set up here. My name's Cody Barbo. First and foremost, an Aztec, a proud Aztec. I was here 2007 to 2012. I feel so old walking around campus. Even at 35, I was like, okay, I guess I was a kid many years ago. But it's great to be back on campus. I mean, like, you can just feel the energy when you walk and step foot on this campus, whether you went to school here or you're just here for this event. And it gets me excited as an alumnus about what this all is and how to find ways to give back. And I know that there's some students in the back working on their projects, but that was the opportunity that I had when I was finishing my time here, was that there was this very small space, not this big, beautiful building, just on the other side of this building. And it was great coffee, good chips and pretzels, but it was a space with resources for student entrepreneurs. And I didn't know that was a thing. And it was my first foray into startups. I massively disappointed my parents in not pursuing a startup that didn't pay anything for 2 years, but I'd floated some money from some stock investments. I made some stock investments during college, which was fun. But that first startup was really a premier learning experience. The things that we ultimately didn't solve for is we didn't have like a traditional business model. We're kind of riding the social media wave. And it was a year and a half of time and money invested. And that startup ultimately failed. My co-founder, Ethan, and I decided to shut it down, and we both moved on. And in that time of transition, you kind of lose a little bit of your identity as an entrepreneur. You're like, well, I spent so much time on this thing, what's next? So when I worked in fine dining in downtown San Diego for a little bit, I was making good money. And we'd opened a brand new restaurant with 160 people. And the one thing that was really odd was that I was on LinkedIn, I think because San Diego State made me create a profile 20 years ago. Feels like 20 years ago. And no one in the restaurant was on LinkedIn. And I'm like, where do I connect professionally with people that I work with if they're not on LinkedIn? They didn't even know what LinkedIn was. So I was like, why is there not a LinkedIn for the hospitality industry? And that was the inception of my company, Industry, that I co-founded with other Aztecs. And there's a continuity between all three startups I've co-founded with Aztecs, which is kind of cool. But that business, we did go on to raise some angel money. We raised $250,000 in angel money, and then we ended up raising a $2 million or $2.3 million seed round in venture. And I spent almost 4 years of my life working on that business. It was amazing. We had launched 12 markets, helping restaurants connect and identify with great talent. They had a visual profile so that a chef could show their food, a bartender their drinks, or just somebody trying to get their first job, their foot in the door, could have a little bit of a more unique way of standing out with photos and video. It just sounds, very obvious today, but at the time felt pretty revolutionary. It's almost a decade ago, because restaurants have really high turnover. And we scaled that business to almost $1 million run rate, while CEO, raised seed money. And June 15th, 2017, I walk in on a Thursday to the office, knew that our investor was in town. I'm in the boardroom, and it was pretty serious tone. It was kind of weird vibes to walk into a room like that, because it was co-founders and investor. And I was handed termination papers and told that that was my last day at the company. And the reason why I'm sharing this, and I'll stop on trust them all because we've got a fun icebreaker. The reason why I share this story is that it's keep going is this kind of voice in my head of why to keep building, this kind of rinse, wash, repeat. I was let go. It's not anything nefarious that I did. I mean, the business had a really bad investor and they tried to pivot it into a cryptocurrency play. It's a real story Neal knows about, and Kathy, because I've told it here many times. But 3.5, almost 4 years of my life, taken away from me in one instance. It was wild to experience that as a young entrepreneur. And I had 3 to 4 weeks of trying to get a little bit of legal closure to figure out what I need to do. I was like, how do I even tell my fiance at the time, my family, my friends? I was just kind of embarrassed by it. And I wrote this LinkedIn post July 11th of that year, a month later. It was just here's the reality. I got fired. It sucked. But here's the 10 things that I'm most proud of. And I'm a free agent. Please hire me. I was no income. And in true fashion of how I operate, I was like, I could go get a job and make some money. I was like, startup sounds great again. No money until there's some venture or we start driving revenue. But it was within 2 months that we started working on Trust a Mill. So it's 3 co-founders. One's a Baylor Bear. The other one's an Aztec. So I'm biased towards Brian. But, 7.5 years in, we got a really fun story to share with y'all today. So I wanted to open up with that quick intro. The dark side of startup,
But that's like the real life of startup life, and we bonded over that specifically.
That's why I mentioned it.
Because I had the exact same experience happen to me in my startup as well too. So I built an ed tech platform. Originally, it was going to be LinkedIn for engineers, and
Neal may have inspired us a little bit.
And we were out there, but we were out there at like same pitch competitions. Like we were seeing each other. I remember LA Tech Week, at like demo at the docks, like all these events were kind of like in parallel, running and building.
Yeah.
And was always so impressed that Cody is like the total package of like amazing pitch, huge PR, and the real deal actually behind the scenes building as well too. So always from afar, I'm like, God, Cody's just awesome. And it's so stoked to see another like marketplace builder out there and in San Diego and making an impact. And that was like, and then we, touched base, and I had my own falling out with my co-founders. And then we reconnected when you had your falling out with your co-founder.
Yeah, it's like the most like professional, like how we got married story. It's like the business friend. How did we meet? Yeah.
Let's pick up on what happened after that, after an icebreaker. We thought we'd share a little bit of a fun thing. We've already told our dark stories. Let's tell an embarrassing story.
Yeah.
So do you got a worst pitch you've ever done?
Yeah. So there's two quick ones, but the one that I'll share with this group. So I feel like I look 35 now, but until I was 30, I looked like I was 18. And I'll never forget this pitch. It was at Extraordinary Desserts, which is not a great place to do an investor pitch, FYI. And this is from my last business. And it was like warm intro from my co-founder to this guy who invested in restaurants. And I go down there, I'll put 100% energy into any pitch. It could be 6 a.m, 10 p.m, Zoom, real. You could pitch me. I'll pitch anybody anytime. I'll pitch you guys here today. But we meet at Extraordinary Desserts, and this guy was giving me weird vibes from the moment we sat down. It like immediately started to feel more like a date than than an investor. And like when you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of dumb. Your blinders are on. You're just like, let me tell you about my business and why we're going to be a huge company and you're going to make a lot of money and why I need your 10K. Midway through this 30-minute meeting that was scheduled, this guy like was making some kind of uncomfortable comments, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And I was like, well, "There's no eject. You can't just end the Zoom call in real life." So I was like, "What do I do here?" And he's like, "I cannot make this up." He reached across the table and touched my face before I could grow facial hair. So a very boyish charm. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm out." So I'm like, "Hey, man, this is not what I was setting up to do. I was just looking for money, and it sounds like you're willing to give it, but for other reasons." So I bailed. It was super awkward, and I shamed my co-founder at the time for that for the rest of our lives. We're still friends today, but that's my weirdest angel pitch. It was odd.
I mean, it happens,
It happens, yeah.
But in person's real. You learned a lot from that.
I've never told that story, by the way,
Really?
publicly. I didn't even tell my fiance at the time. I was like, I had a really weird day.
Similarly, I had a pitch where I was like, I should have screened this first as well too. So I cold outreach. Someone said, "Hey, I'd love to take you on a hike and show you our product." It's like, let's do it. Get some exercise, get out there. And you ever like meet someone within like 30 seconds? You're like, oh, like I shouldn't be here. You just feel it. And I was like, and we're about to go hike on a point-to-point kind of thing. Like we're together. But immediately he like puts the product in my hand. I've got like this soap and I can't get it off my hands. So for most of the hike, I'm just like, okay. He's, I think, ahead of me talking. So I can kind of hear, and I'm just like working the product off my hands. I'm like, what did I sign myself up for right here? And realized like, all right, I'm already out. I'm not interested in investing per se, but what can I get out of this, right? And so, thought through like, who do I know in soaps? Who could I connect them to who, actually has built a soap product? And in the end, made an intro to pass them along the way and said, I'm out.
Did it end in a high five, like a sticky, great to meet you?
Another hour where we just stood in the parking lot just trying to unconnect.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know. But
Never know.
I think the big thing about angel investing for a founder and for investors, like you got to get out there. You got to like talk to people. Just like you got to validate your product, you got to validate founder-investor match to a certain regard, or founder-investor product market fit to a certain regard.
Investor market fit.
Investor market fit, if you will. You've taken hundreds of pitches, or you've done hundreds of pitches for money, maybe thousands.
Probably
now.
thousands is the fair now.
And you're just as much checking out the other side as they are you.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll talk through a little bit of that. Should we say the end point of why we are here together, what ultimately happened?
Yeah.
And so Cody and I right after he had his falling out with his company, we met up, and you were really more asking for just like, what should I do when you have a co-founder breakup? Like advice, feedback. I remember where it was. It was at the Mission in the restaurant over there in East Village.
Yeah.
I remember you said to me, I think I'm gonna like do some part-time like consulting, Cody Barbo consulting.
I did.
And I was like, he's not gonna do that. He's gonna start another company. And I always, for a while, it took me a while to realize, did I write check there? Did I say it out loud? But in my head, I wrote my check to Cody Barbo at that breakfast. I was like, whatever you're on to next, which you didn't have Trust and Willie next.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in on whatever he's building next. And so a few months later, or maybe even, I think 3 days later, you had your meeting with Daniel.
Yeah.
We looked at our calendars.
It was quick. Yeah.
August 2nd, 5th, and somewhere in between, we had breakfast.
Yeah.
And the two of them were like, let's do this thing. I remember the ampersand logo suddenly was like, it's happening.
Designed by an Aztec, still in use today. Yeah.
And really the reason you actually like hustled to do it was for Tech Coast Angels Quick Pitch, right?
Yeah. So once I wrote that LinkedIn post, felt a little bit more comfortable about like, what is the next opportunity? I did launch consulting and I made no money. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do something else. I'll do a startup that pays great. But the idea was to, like get my groove back. And I'll share this amongst friends. My other company idea was like a smart toilet. Like, don't judge me. I wanted to call the company Flush. It had a full healthcare play where it would measure your stool and urine samples to look at your health biomarkers and give you daily updates for, diets and nutrition and vitamins. And there's going to be a smart toilet paper dispenser that would measure your usage and get you free, toilet paper, and then you'd have wipes and spray. It's a package deal.
Are you taking checks right now?
Yeah, I was like, I'm pitching.
I would invest in that.
I went so deep into the history of toilets. Like this is 8 years ago now. I'm like, I could still pitch that business because I was so committed. I've seen some players try to dethrone us, I guess. Okay. You got it. But it was just like, I pitched that to Wolf. There's another angel in town. He's like, he's one of our investors, very wealthy Mexican guy. He's like, I do not like this idea. And I was like, okay. He's like, what else do you got? And I said, we got an estate planning company we're thinking about. And he's like, this I like. And you and Wolf are our first two commits. Mm-hmm. So the idea for Trust and Will, we're the nation's leading online estate planning platform today. At the time, and still true today, the real vision was just to build a TurboTax for estate planning, make it easy and affordable for everyday families to be able to set up an estate plan online, to be able to come back and make updates. And then it's not this kind of like draconian, offline, old school experience. We're trying to bring it into the digital age, especially as all of my friends are getting married and starting to have kids and watching our parents retire and start to age or losing grandparents. So just like kind of the sandwich generation that applies to most of this room here. And I was like, how do we make this easier for people? Most people will never set up an estate plan. And it just so happens, generally wealthy people, a lot of you in this room, don't have estate plans. I was like, man, what a perfect pitch to people. Shame them for not having an estate plan, then ask them for money for a product that I know they'll pay cheaper than what the attorneys would charge them for, and then ask them for an investment that maybe they'll make some upside on it. So it was crazy that we had this quick pitch, which is still it's evolved, I guess, from there, but it's the largest pitch event in San Diego for startups. And out of 200 companies that applied, similar to the numbers Kathy ran off with Techstars, we made the top 10. Top 10 went on to speak at Qualcomm headquarters in the big auditorium. We took third place, got a big $5K check. Our third co-founder, Brian, got fired because of it because he was still working his job. His boss was like, what is this? He was like, yeah, it's a real story. Yeah, I don't know if he shared that, if Brian spoke Kathy here before, but that's a true story. So it was kind of like, and Daniel had been fired at the previous employer, and him and Brian worked together. So it was like, all three of us got fired. It's like great story to tell. So that's what brought us together. And we took third place, and it was so funny. We weren't incorporated. So we had all this buzz, like Ryan Cooter from Techstars came up. He's like, hey, we're launching this Techstars Anywhere program. I think you guys should apply. We had angel investors. You're already committed, but we had angel investors wanting to come and learn more about the business. And we had people that wanted to use the product. And I was like, wow, what a great validation in a night, like literally it was October 6th of that year, 2017. So within 3 weeks, incorporated, and we're off to the races to get product live, getting accepted into Techstars. And I vividly remember, I don't want to call it easy money because we had the friendship bank. So I call it friendraising versus fundraising. Yeah. But we pitched 90 angels and 26 came in. Those checks range from 10K to 40K was the biggest. And all the other pitches were no's. Like they were just, hey, we're out for XYZ reason. And then there's one that ghosted me, which this guy in Alaska, I'll never let him let it down. I was like, I'm going to put a billboard up in Anchorage when we go IPO. Like, this could have been you.
Do you text him your PR releases?
I sent him monthly investor updates for 5 years.
Wow.
And it's really satisfying for a founder to like, if somebody who ghosted you, because like your time matters too on the founder side, even an investor's time matters. You don't want to waste anybody's time.
Yeah.
But just to like slow drip the success over 5 years felt really good. And then we changed our investor update format. But the point being is like, as a founder, you know, I went through my network and I mostly pitched people that I knew. We got a couple of warm introductions from folks that I'd never met. But all of those meetings are in person. And some of them, it didn't even take more than a breakfast. And others, it took 5 or 6 meetings that were 30 minutes or an hour. And like, we didn't have a product yet. We didn't have revenue. So convincing why somebody should give us a check. And for some of those, they were first-time angel checks. They'd never written a check into a software company. It's like walking them through the mechanics of a priced round versus a safe note versus a convertible note, which we raised a convertible note at the time. You know, not giving up board seats at that stage for a lot of obvious reasons, but like really trying to break the mold of like, this isn't a Shark Tank style investment. So encouraging them to go read the book Angel by Jason Calacanis. Like, if you want to get familiar with this, like, go read up on it and be as educated about angel investing as you can about investing in me, not the company, Trust and Will, but in me, Daniel, and Brian, because you're betting on us that we're going to try and make something work here. And the first year was a slog. I mean, it was 5 of us. 3 of the 5 were Aztecs. We had an estate attorney, of course. He was our most expensive hire, but we needed someone who would check the credibility box that we're going to go do legal services as a non-law firm. And the first year we did like 20K in revenue, but we understood who our customer was. And enough that we got our pitch dialed in and feedback from our angels that we went to market in the fall of 2018 to raise a $2 million seed round. And since today's focus is mostly on the early stage, I'll try to keep most of the nerd. But today, we've raised over $50 million in capital. Business itself is doing about $50 million in revenue this year. Got 100 employees. Cash flow positive for my investors. And you know, we're on hopefully a 3 to 5 year IPO window. So the goal is to keep building this thing as far as we can, be IPO ready. You know, hopefully doing north of 200 million in the next 3 to 5 years. And if we can take the company public, bigger check, Kathy, for me in the future, for sure, and Dan. But you know, I love San Diego State for so many reasons, and like I found my confidence here, and the fact that this program exists, even with you guys here for this Angel Academy, it's the real deal. And there's a lot of Aztec entrepreneurs that are starting to get celebrated, and they're building companies that are doing millions to hundreds of millions of revenue. We're having younger entrepreneurs selling their companies, exiting for the first time. And it's just, it's really special. It's something in the water here in San Diego, specifically at San Diego State. And it's not beer. It's from the frat parties. So,
Amazing.
That's the story.
Neal started at SDSU.
I did,
yeah.
freshman year.
Yeah.
My AE Pi, calls me an alum of SDSU, and so I'm an alum for sure. I'm in.
Yeah. Aztec for life.
And so take us, I mean, in the beginning, as a founder looking for capital to really you're looking to just keep the engine going to satisfying the customer, but you need capital.
Yep.
And a lot of times, a lot of founders take any capital. When did you decide that not all capital is created equally?
Yeah, so I felt the burn from that last company. I mean, like, we took money from a legitimate VC, and I didn't do enough research on the specific partner. And like, who you take money from matters. I think for entrepreneurs, we forget that it's our company, it's our cap table, and you're giving the investor the opportunity. And I share this with you as an advantage that like, it's a privilege to join a company's cap table. And if you know that going into it, the impact that you can have on that entrepreneur's success is meaningfully more important. And there's some cases where, like as a founder, you're desperate. Like, the business may not make it if we don't raise cash. Like, we almost missed payroll between that pre-seed and the seed round. We were going to pull our own payroll for founders to pay Eric and Patrick at the time, but we made that first 100K check happen for our seed round, and then the rest of the money followed it pretty quickly. But you know, the relationships with most of my angels, even aside from Neal, was like, these are people I trusted them. And you know, I was very clear with the communication. I was like, look, you have to assume this investment goes to zero. I was like, because if it does, I hope that we're still friends. And we can maintain that relationship, and you're not going to come give me the old, Soprano shakedown midnight on a dark street. You wouldn't do that to me, right?
Never.
Yeah. So with that expectation up front, I think it's really important that as an investor, you got to set those same expectations with the founders. Like, hey, if you want me involved, like, pull me in as often as you need help. If you need a call at late night or you're dealing with something stressful, like, pull me in. And just maybe I'll provide some perspective. But if you want me to be a ghost investor, and you're setting that expectation up front, you're setting up the relationship for success. Because the last thing you want to do, and this drove me crazy about this one previous investor, is micromanaging an entrepreneur when they're trying their absolute best every day to run that business, take care of their team, take care of payroll. The first 2 years are so hard, and you're just trying to break a couple 100,000 or maybe $1 million run rate in the business. So I felt like it was really important to me also to, as I'm trying to get money from these people, like, hey, if you're willing to meet with me once a month, Zoom or in person, like, let's set that cadence up now. And you're basically prepping that entrepreneur for the next opportunity. It doesn't mean they have to go raise more capital, but if they plan to, like, let's get that entrepreneur in the best shape possible. Because you have entrepreneurs that they may have the network relationships to get that pre-seed or angel round, but venture might be completely new territory for them. And it's like, if you walk into a VC firm and you're not prepared, you don't have a very polished pitch deck, that pitch practice is dialed in, the hierarchy from associates up to general partner, the fund, the stage that they play at, the themes that they invest in, that they're actively deploying capital. Like, you can be such an advantage to that entrepreneur. And that's where Neal and a couple of our other angels were extremely helpful. We had 2 angels that had taken companies public. So aspirationally, that's what we wanted to do and still hope to do. And you have guys like Neal, who's like, his entire network is everybody they want to pitch. It's like every VC fund in California and beyond. And I was like, what a better person to at least like run through that Rolodex with as we were prepping for the seed round, because the seed round was more brutal than the angels. 120 pitches, 6 came in, and those were meaningful checks. And 2 of the 6 were from the previous company. I'd known and pitched them. So those relationships can carry over through multiple companies. I think that's one of the things that Neal and I really want to hit on for you today is like, even if it's a no on the entrepreneur and the investment, but you really like the entrepreneur, whether their business fails or not, like that relationship can carry over to the next opportunity. And sometimes it does take the time. You got to go through these tumble cycles to build up your thick skin to actually be successful. And I feel like that's been, for me personally, a big reason why Trustmill's had success.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because from an angel, like, I feel like I am 100% investing in the person.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to get to know the person, and really for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you give me 10 years to get to know you, I know you way better than you pitch me today and say, make a decision, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about the other way around too. Like, just as much to know how to utilize your investors. Like, we can only say, how can I help so many times? You got to also tell us, hey, I need your help with blank.
Yeah.
Right? You do great monthly updates. I try to every single time reply. It's tough to, but always it's like, even if it's just like a great job, guys, or I see your asks, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Where else do you need help? Is that every investor, or what's the investor relationship after you invest?
So I'll give credit to Techstars because I didn't do this with my last company. But Techstars, when you go through the 3-month program, they have you do these weekly updates, kind of a pain in the ass because you're like trying to build the company and like go to all the stuff you're making me go to. But like, it's really helpful from a muscle memory and building that kind of core processy where when we graduated Techstars, which was April 2018, every single month, every single investor that I pitched, I had a spreadsheet categorized by like type of investor, angel, seed, series A. And my goal was to, obviously, we sent out the same email to everybody for 4 years. Then we switched it from cap table versus non-cap table. But it was basically like core metrics. I had an ask if we were hiring. I put the job listing, please send us requests or reply to this email. We had marketing updates, product updates, BD or sales updates. Every business is a little different. And then travel. It was like, I'm going to be at this conference, like if you know anyone there. And I'd send it out almost religiously the first day of every month for years. And it was amazing because every single investor that had passed on us was getting those drips. So that's my jab. Hey, this could have been your markup. But on the upside is like for that next round's investor, for the seed when we were pre-seed, for the series A when we were seed stage, it was building that excitement that like, hey, we're being super consistent with everything that we pitched you on, we're going to deliver on, and this is why you should consider investing in the next round. So like it was crazy for our series A. We went and pitched 45 VCs, did a 5-week tour of duty from New York to Boston, SF, Bay Area, LA, and then a couple virtual pitches. We got 3 term sheets within a week. We ran a super tight process. And even one of the series A investors who passed on us, they pre-let our series B less than a year later because the business took off. And it's like, that's why I go back to friendraising. Like you could still have this relationship, like every investor that said no broke my heart, still does. We got no's this last year, but we have a lot of yeses, big yeses, stay tuned. But it's part of the process. And I think that was the other thing that you also have to help unlock in entrepreneurs. Like this is a professional relationship. Like you're pitching me for real money. You need to kind of have the tough love conversation sometimes with them. Like if you don't like things about their business, like don't sugarcoat shit. Like you need to be really honest with them, especially if you're an expert in what they're talking to you about, or you have some professional knowledge. Or if you know someone who is that expert, like introduce them, not to say, hey, this is part of, you say it's part of my diligence process. You got to talk to my expert friend. But it's really helpful validation. And one of the things that Neal and I were talking about as part of the prep, like the most powerful thing you can do for an entrepreneur is be able to tell them no. Like this, like as early as possible. This isn't a good fit. I don't know anything about the space. I see the upside. The market seems huge, TAM, blah, blah, blah. Like if it's not going to be a good fit for you, like tell them no upfront so that you're not wasting your time and they're not bugging you through text, email, phone calls, LinkedIn message. They'll find you everywhere. As I found my investors that I wanted money from everywhere. Don't show up like their house, like that crosses the line. But like, I know where your office is. It's on their address. It's on their website. But it's really helpful to give that time back to the entrepreneur and to give them pretty honest feedback. And we had a couple investors who did pass on us, never actually invested. And those were some of the most helpful conversations we had in kind of forming the strength around our business model, go to market. And I in the time, you're frustrated as an entrepreneur, but I can look back on it and be like, you know what, I'm actually happy that we had that tougher conversation.
Yeah. Some of the investors I know early, like Melanie Spiegelman, had some deep industry expertise in terms of that, and showed that, I'm guessing, right away before she even wrote the check. Like, what's the value transfer that happens before cash transfer with an investor and a CEO?
If you can really provide value, I would anchor. That's why, like, sometimes you are going to be a competitive motion. Like, you might not get allocation into a company's round, right? And it's like it's a fast deal. You might want more time, but like you have to go as deep as you can, as quickly as you can, to research the space that the company's in, the other competitors. Like I think that's probably the hardest pill for entrepreneurs to swallow. Is like, we'll talk about your competition. If they can't talk about their competition, like, do not write them a check. Like, they should know every detail about their competitors at an obsessive level and how they're going to beat those other companies. Because I still get asked about competition. I'm like, we're bigger than all of our competition today. And I can still talk about every one of them down to a pre-revenue, pre-funded company that just launched because I got Google Alert set up. And an investor who's like, oh, what about estateplanning.io? And I'm like, reached out to the founders on LinkedIn. Like, I've heard of every company now in our space, and we're big enough I mostly don't care, but if they hit revenue scale, we can acquire them. That's the investor pitch I get to give now. Well, what happens if they compete with you at this thing? And I'm like, we can outspend them because we got 8 figures of cash, but we can also buy them. Like, that's a viable option for us now. But it's like, these are the conversations, when you're having the entrepreneurs. Like, if you see the company going all the way to an IPO, like, fantastic. If you see the company towards a potential exit path, like, help walk through that timeline with them too, because you're trying to think, when is my money going to come back? That's the hardest thing to an entrepreneur to tell an angel, because I got asked that from a lot of our angels, not Neal, but they're like, how much equity do I get? And I'm like, well, it's a convertible note, and when it converts, I didn't say if, but when it converts, like, it could convert to this based on the price of that round. But it was really like the position. I'm trying to think of like a phrasing, like positioning to an angel investor how much money they're going to make on investing $10K into Trust Mo, and it was like pre-revenue, pre-product is like, I don't know. That's why you should just assume it goes to zero. So if I bring $1 million or $10 million, Neal, be super stoked on that day. So.
Yeah, that's like that was the next question I was asking, is like, every investor is joining for totally different reasons per se.
Yeah.
VCs have a very specific reason. Yeah. There's a return that they expect. For me, I view it as I'm writing you a check. It's like my ticket to ride, right? Like, I want to be along for the journey, and I know that you're the one I want to learn from along the journey and just get a peek into it, Mm-hmm. And so in that regard, like, there isn't an ROI potential. The ROI is the journey the whole time of just like learning from you, learning from how the company has grown. And because of that, it's turned me into like, I feel like chief cheerleader, like I think probably the most worn clothes I've got are all Trust and Well shirts and jackets, everywhere.
Oh yeah, make your company's print swag go cheap. There's a great place in TJ that does it. Highly recommended. It's like $3 a shirt. But yeah, company swag, like put it on your LinkedIn, angel investor in that company. Like, do everything you can with your network and your reach if you have a social presence to help promote that company. If they send monthly updates, great. If they don't, encourage them to. And like, always have them have an ask in those monthly updates. It's so powerful, because we had people that weren't even on the cap table that would come through and deliver on intros and new hire opportunities.
I've been working for 2 years on getting a marketing leader in your org. So we'll make it happen with Kai eventually. I know it. Kai wants to be there so bad. And that's like the part that I look at as hopefully a value add to prove that we're worthy the whole time, because you're increasing the value of the company. I feel like I should be working when you're sleeping, kind of thing, because I'm on the cap table. And a lot of that is like forward thinking, like, who are the people that you're not asking for that need to be in your orbit, right? One of the times that, when I can reshare, repost to very specific targeted group, right? Like when can I help organize a panel that's about wealth tech to make sure that you're in the room with people that is your audience, Those are some of the things that like come to mind for me of just like constantly thinking, where can I be helpful to a certain regard?
Is it worth, do you think we're talking about like the evolution of your role to where we are now as a company?
Sure.
Yeah, so one of the things, I was thinking about this as we're talking here. So one of the things that's weird, I'm very transparent with our team, with all of our investors, but like just the reality is like at a certain point, the company starts to have trade secrets, whether it's IP, actual business metrics, performance, big deals that they're going to sign. And like, I think that part of the value add is as early on as possible is like building that trust, ensuring that trust. We've got 50 to 60 shareholders on the cap table, and I spend most of my time now with our larger shareholders. That's the board. We have a lot of large corporates like American Express, UBS, Northwestern Mutual, AARP. They're investors in the company, and some of our largest partnerships. But we shifted our monthly newsletters to two lists, which was cap table investors versus non, and then we shifted it again to quarterly updates to get more in this kind of public company motion. And we're way more selective with what we're actually putting in those too. And it's like, it feels weird because like if I get on a call with Neal, I see him like before talking, like tell him about like things that are in the pipeline, like I did, shared some really good news. But the importance of that level of trust, even though it's been 7.5 years on our journey, it's like you have to also be okay with letting go of the visibility that you may get into the company. Like you're not going to have board level visibility. You may not have information rights if the company starts to hit more scale and success. And I think if you're comfortable with that, that's a good problem to have because it means your company's doing pretty well. Your investment.
Ooh, let's tell a story. It's been in the back of my head for a long time about when I overshared.
Ooh, okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
So I had a weekly newsletter that shared who raised capital in San Diego, Fresh Brewed Tech. And we share whatever's publicly available out there. We take a press release or a TechCrunch article. All right, here's who raised today. By the way, Cody is like texted me that I actually get a lot of the sources from Cody. Cody's 2 hours ahead of me now and texts me from the same newsletter from Fortune being like, hey, did you see that?
6 a.m. Central Time, 5:30, you're getting the 4:30.
Mosaic got sold. We're like, oh, awesome. We'll share it in the newsletter today. So great deal sharing from that regard. And one time when you announced your raise, I think it was your B, I knew the amount of valuation, but it wasn't public, and I put it in my newsletter. And you immediately were like, dude, cannot do that. It was immediate deletion, immediate put down, but it was like, whoa, yeah, you're right. Like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how VCs have particular reasons for it, but also myself, like, I like a little bit of mystery for our competition too. And it's weird now that like the eyeballs that I look at, if you have your LinkedIn on a premium account, you like look at who's looked at your profile. And it's kind of weird. Like, it's kind of like, it's like, you feel good. You're like, oh, look at, it's like CEO of a big company, checked out my profile. Cool, send them a request. If it's a competitor, like, what are they looking at? Or what, like, and I try and calculate like, okay, if I see competitor CEO, look at my LinkedIn, that's how weird I am. And then I go look at their hiring careers page. I'm like, how many roles they got up? I'm like, do they have a round in motion? Or if I look at once a month, I'll look at the CEOs of our competitors and be like, who are new mutual connections that we have? And if it's somebody that we've talked to but don't have a deal with, are they now also talking to that same person or company? And like, this is like the level of tactics that like, as an investor, like you could really like encourage your investment, your CEOs, like go deep, like go really deep all the time and challenge them to report on this stuff for you, just to get them in that muscle motion of a quarterly board cadence. If they are going to prep for a seed round, like, do you want to do a mock board meeting? Even if it's just the two of you, like what a powerful thing to do. There's a lot of really great public content. Like Sequoia's got a great public format of board decks for VCs. And like the earlier you get your entrepreneurs in that motion, it's such a value add for them. And I had the experience with the board of the previous company, but even coming into Trust Mo, I think that a couple things that I learned, and you have to encourage your entrepreneurs to do this. You got to protect them. Like, especially as an angel investor, like they're a little more family than business contact. And when we started Trust Mo for 3 co-founders, put in some provisions when we raised our first venture round, took out an outside board member, where if I was ever fired, knowing that I have complete peace, like my company's not my identity. Like I could get fired today, hopefully not. I just move on. But I wanted a way to replace myself with common seat board vote. Wanted to protect my co-founders with accelerated pay, investing, and benefits. Like if I got fired, I have 2 kids. I'm like, I want benefits for 6 months. But like, as your entrepreneurs graduate to these more senior levels, they may not be thinking about these things. Like it becomes less of their company with the equity dilution. But if you can kind of give them a peek around the corner based on your own experiences or other deals you've done that have hit maturity. I share this as just importance because I've gotten this coaching from Neal and a couple of other angels before I needed to really think about doing it, like actually putting it into plan. But just to have that framework of understanding was really powerful. So that's why I shared.
It's a good share.
Yeah.
Why don't you share about Daniel's mom as like just kind of the early angels who?
Yeah. So my parents have supported my brother and I our whole lives. They're great. But I didn't ask them for money, and I love to ask anybody for money for this business. So we asked Daniel's mom, and she was our biggest angel check. My co-founder Daniel's mom, Mickey, she's a sweetheart. Most of our angel checks were like 10 to 15,000. She came in with a 40K check, and that's pretty close family relation. There's a family dynamic that's also like a little uncomfortable there. If we fail, that's your mom's retirement money. Like, what are we doing? Are you still going to be, her son, or is she going to have 2 kids now, not 3? So, she came in with a very generous check, and it was amazing. And like, I was laughing because she was at Daniel's house a month ago, live in Dallas, he does too. And she's in the kitchen cooking, they've got 3 kids. And I'm like, hey, Mickey, I was like, do you know what our company's worth now? And she's like, oh no, like Daniel tells me about all the fun stuff you're working on. She's like, I log into my Trust Mill account. And I was like, yeah, but you're an investor. I'm gonna give you an investor update. So I give her in the kitchen of Daniel's house, kids running around screaming, like a formal investor update. And I was like, I gave her the math on her equity, the assumptive math on like what it's worth today. It's worth a lot. 4 times Neal's.
Yes, 7 figures.
But I think 7 figures. And like her reaction is the same as it was when she first invested, which felt really special. She's like, I don't care. And it's weird to hear that. She's just like, I just believe in you guys and want to see you be successful. And like, that's the thing is like, you invest in a startup and you're with them until they die or they go public or they sell. And it could be like a 10, 15-year journey at minimum. So we're 7.5 years in. And it was really refreshing, to have Neal here today and have Daniel's mom as an angel, to have that level of commitment to the business still now, even though, the business is doing much better today than it was when we started. But,
do you still have that one printer? Is that like been bronzed?
So cost savings hack. We've created over 1 million estate planning documents. And every set of estate plans we ship out is like 40 to 80 pages in it. So the co-working space, Downtown Works, which was like our home for 2 years, had a clause, if you're a co-working space member, free unlimited printing. I was like, fuck yeah. So we had, and Wolf, the owner of the co-working space, was one of our angels. We had to have like a real awkward conversation. We're like, it's in the legal agreement, like, and we were like, we took over the printer. We called the printer Fresh Prints, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And every day we'd take like, I don't know, like a mountain of papers up and down from the printer down to the office. We were hand packaging in our own office, the co-working space, for like the first 3 years.
Like 4 of you guys and a printer in an office.
We were basically running like an actual sweatshop. It was, everyone who else worked there was probably like, what are they doing? But yeah, you find little hacky ways to get around things, and that was one of them. So as an angel investor, find creative ways to save your founders time and money.
100%. And then when you do invest, put your shares in your trust.
You should put them in trust.
On trustandwill.com.
Yeah. Oh, nice plug.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Why don't we take time for some questions? We have questions from the audience at all? Ooh, no more stories.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I have a question. There was another company, similar space called Willing.com.
Yeah.
Acquired by MetLife. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, and then you immediately start talking about competitive intelligence. So I think you're kind of contemporaneous with that company on the data. So I'm just curious how you used that company to sort of benchmark your raise, or what were those discussions?
Yeah, so we had, so we started the company Trust Mill looking at a competitive lens. So the default in the United States, most countries, people don't do estate plans, period. Like, anyone not have an estate plan in here? It's okay, we're friends. Anybody no estate plan? Yeah, there's more than a few of you that don't have it. I know. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. No, I'm not here to shame. I'm not here to shame. No, we're friends. I was getting married, and my wife, she'd lost her dad when we'd started dating. All that shit went through probate as a mess for the family. And I was like, I don't want that for us. Like, let's go do this. I got a quote for $3,000 and a quote for $5,000. I'm like, what's better about the $5,000 plan? He's like, that's just my rate. I'm like, why? It's paying more for the same car at a different dealership. I'm like, why would I do that? And LegalZoom, it naturally, like at the time, private company, today public company, doing $700 million. Estate planning is like A through Z of all the legal things they sell. And I was like, they sucked at estate planning. Like I was like, their product was clunky. It felt dated. It didn't feel as modern as a TurboTax or like a consumer fintech app. And when I look at the venture landscapes, I'm thinking like, okay, who's doing this? There's got to be someone doing this at scale with venture backing. There's 3 startups, 2 of which don't exist anymore. Willing.com is one of them. Willing.com had raised $7 million out of Y Combinator's, like a huge stamp of approval, like a Techstars to get into YC. And the founder, I didn't reach out to him at first, but when we launched our company, he did not like that we existed. And he was not nice to me, and I'm nice to every founder who's a competitor in our space, even though I have like, competitive, but like rising tide lifts all boats. Like if we're bigger than you, we'll buy you. If you're bigger than us, maybe you buy us one day. And that's part of the relationship building. But Willing.com, FreeWill, and Tomorrow were 3 startups. Tomorrow and Willing were both acquired. They were not good exits. YC company raised seed round, sold to MetLife 3-4 years after they founded the company. And like the critique that I had of Willing.com as an example was that I'm at the time, late 20s, getting married. I go on the website, it's all people my parents' age, it's totally fine, only doing will-based estate plans. I wanted to set up a trust. I'm like, who's doing wills and trusts? And when I looked at Tomorrow was a free will and a cheaper trust. I'm like, what's the catch? And you go through their product flow, insurance, life insurance was their moneymaker. So as you're going through, if you don't have life insurance, they're gonna try and loop you into an insurance policy. It makes complete sense. They raised through Series A. They were acquired by a large insurtech. Also not a great exit. Maybe it's for the founders on both, but like in total not a great return for the investors. And then freewill.com is selling through the plan giving channel. So like San Diego State is a customer where they're paying to give free wills to alumni donors to hopefully get named in the estate plan. So that's the way that SDSU can check the box on the cost of that service. They're a pretty meaningfully scaled business. They've raised, think about as much as we have, 50 million, and they're probably doing, in the tens of millions of revenue. But when I looked at the landscape, I was like, none of these are consumer brands. Like that was the goal. It was like no one has built the TurboTax scale brand of recognition to go do estate planning. If somebody asked you where do you do an estate plan, where do you tell them? Go local attorney, or maybe a LegalZoom. So for us, it was like trust and mill. That should be the brand. And this year we'll spend north of 10 million on TV ads. We did a Game 4 World Series spot. We will aspirationally do a Super Bowl spot probably next year or 2027. Like that's the level of brand recognition that we want. So that was aspirational, very aspirational at the time because we weren't a company yet. But we wanted to beat people on brand. We wanted to deliver the best customer experience in the market. LegalZoom was the leader from a scale perspective, and their product was clunky. We copied LegalZoom's price, and then we changed our price to get our unit economics better. And then LegalZoom copied our price, which was very flattering to get their unit economics better, I guess. But like we think we're surpassing LegalZoom's revenue scale today on estate planning, not their whole business. And that gives us confidence. So if we have the upside, market upside today, how can we move faster? And that's where growth capital for us, raising tens of millions of dollars at this stage meaningfully moves our business forward. Because now we're looking at AI, platform expansion. We have unbelievable amounts of data that's helping us create better experiences for our customers. And we can do acquisitions. We've done 1 acquisition to date. We're looking at 2 more companies as we speak. And I think aspirationally having an IPO narrative helps a lot too. Just like we're swinging for the fences as big as we can. Did it give a little context? Was there anything more specific you're looking for?
Yeah, I think you answered it generally, and then maybe more narrowly, someone answered it. But in your pitches, you clearly knew all about your competition, so you were differentiating, and you having pushback from investors of, well, this company is raising at this multiple, so why am I going to invest?
Yeah, I don't think valuation multiples of other startups wasn't ever a concern. I mean, for 5 years, even still sometimes today, LegalZoom is the only company that comes up in competitive analysis because they have scale, public company. All of our startup competitors we are today, the ones that are, there's new companies that have come into the space, are doing hundreds of thousands to millions of revenue. They're too small for us to care. And investors. Now, the downside now is, early stage, you get a speculative asset valuation. At our stage, you get like public market compression. So have to justify, hundreds of millions of enterprise value to growth investors, which is a little harder to do because they're professional investors. And not that you aren't, but they have minions of hundreds of people running every data set you've ever given them through models. And it's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get more on the way to IPO.
Yeah, I know.
Which is what you like to. You love to rise to the occasion.
Challenge.
You want to give quarterly updates. You
Yeah,
give
I like
monthly
the
updates on monthly investor calls if you could.
Yeah, I hired a CFO with public company experience, Ron Wengren, San Diego guy, great human being. If any of you know him, he helped.
From us?
Yeah, of course.
LP in our fund?
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
And he's wonderful. Helps me sleep at night better. Yeah.
He took Viasat public, I think.
Took Viasat public. He was at Classy GoFundMe as their CFO, and was at Kula and another company here in town.
Yeah, so that's consumer as well too, and tech, which is awesome. And you did it early, and you're on a rocket ship trajectory.
Yeah. I know we only had one question. Can I ask you guys a question? Raise your hand if you've done at least one investment, one angel investment. Who's done? Anyone do more than 10? Okay, so this is a good crew here. Yeah, I mean, my encouragement is like curate the relationship. So I said friendraising before you're fundraising. Like if you see an entrepreneur that you feel the spark, like invest in the relationship first, even before they ask you for money, or if they don't know that they want to raise money, like you could be that catalyst to kind of push them down that path. But I mean, I emphasize the relationship because for at least our 26 angels minus 4 of them, I knew these people for months or years prior to even thinking about pitching them a business idea. And it's just like such a simple thing, but it makes a huge difference on the flip side once you've given them the money and how you can help them and go to work for the company every day. Yeah.
I heard that we just missed investing. The San Diego Angel Conference just missed investing just due to timing in Trust and Will. I heard that from a SDAC person.
In investment in Trust and Will? Hypothetically, if we had a round that it was, yeah.
When you were first raising, that it just was a timing issue, because otherwise you would have come through the flow of SDAC.
You raised what, like January 2018?
For the seed round, so we were raising from September to December 2018. That might be it. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is like once the rounds close, like it's a little easier on the early stage side to like reopen it to accommodate a great investor. The later stage, it's a lot harder because you have to. I have to go get board consent, shareholder consent. Like it's a process to reopen a raise. And the early, that's why safes and convertible notes are a great vehicle because you kind of just do an ongoing rolling close. You just don't want those notes or safes to stack too much because they can create a bit of a mess later on.
Did you end up going through Tech Coast Angels to like pitch and raise?
Tech Coast Angels broke my heart. We pitched a room probably with this many people. I thought everyone was going to pull out their checkbooks because like we're so excited to pitch our business. Heartbroken immediately when they're like, "Hey guys, look, we're not going to invest." But we had 3 individuals who came after to invest, and that felt pretty good. And I think that's part of again, going back to some of my earlier comments, like even in a group setting, if it's a no, like you can be an individual investor. Like I always tell entrepreneurs, if you want to go raise money from a tier 1 VC fund, go pitch the associates that might like your business to make an angel investment. So they have some skin in the game to get you in the door there. Or if it's a partner or a general partner, like get them on your cap table as an individual investor so that they can bring you into their deal flow at the venture level when the time is right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Well, we're going to dive in. I'm going to give a talk in like half an hour more on like defining some of the stuff that we talked about. Yeah. Angel versus VC, in case people don't know. Yep. And talking about what's the difference between an angel group and a direct angel investment and a syndicate and a fund. Yep. So this is all really great, like case study of how it all happens.
Yeah, I just on a personal note, I'm really grateful for y'all's time today to be able to share this. It's building a company. It's like there's no off button for an entrepreneur. Like I'm thinking about this business like all day, every day. It's I love my family. I think about them too. But like it's an incredible. It's a privilege and an honor to build something. And even if it fails, there's always something else. And I think that the relationships you can have with your entrepreneur, angel founder here. Like you can become friends. Like you can become really close friends throughout the journey. And I think that's such a powerful thing to do in addition to investing in somebody at the earliest inception of an idea, when they're pre-product, pre-revenue, pre-incorporation. Mm-hmm. We had to go incorporate to take Neal's money. But yeah, I just want to say thank you all for being here. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, if you need an estate plan or you need to update your estate plan, trustandmill.com. You'll see us on TV. If you don't do it today, I'll shame you until we don't exist. Cost savings, fun fact. I didn't want to be in the commercial. They pitched us our first commercial we did. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's 250 grand." I'm like, "What if we're in it?" They're like, "We don't recommend that." But it's probably like 70 grand cheaper. So I'm in the first commercial. And since then, we've
Matt
got
Stafford's
actors.
in the next one.
We've got Stafford and a few other fun ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, we good?
Oh, thank you.
Neal, I had to dig deep to find you something you didn't have yet.
Yeah, appreciate it. Honored.
Thank you guys.
We'll wear it with
Some
pride.
swag. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.